Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to sit down and chat to amazing humans about their journeys and stories with mental health. For this episode, I'm so happy to introduce Mike Turlin to the conversation. Welcome, Mike.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. So, as always, just a very brief introduction from me, how we got to this. I'll let you do a proper introduction in a moment, Mike, let people know a little bit about who you are and what you do. But we got to this conversation, and actually, it's been one that's been brewing around for quite some time. We've actually found a moment where we can record. Been following the work that Mike does for a number of years now. I won't share too much about that, but we're going to talk about it because it's all relating primarily to mental health and a specific industry as well. So, give you some sneaky clues there. But it's great to have you, Mike. Really, really pleased to have you on board here, and I'm looking forward to listening to your story and your perspective. So welcome. Do you want to do a quick introduction to yourself, let people know a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm Mike Turlin, founder of Bentley Mental Health and Construction Buddies.
Excellent. Nice and straightforward. So, as always, the invitation is for you to tell us a story, the journey of your experience with mental health. So, no doubt we're going to go into all those elements that you've just introduced us, all those two elements that you've introduced us to, the Bentley man and the construction buddies. But tell us a story, what's been going on in your world and your life.
Well, in 2009, I was suffering with depression, which I didn't know about at the time. And my mum died, my best mate died, I lost my job, and I just broke up from a new marriage, which I thought at the time was quite good. But then also I was getting arrested probably 2 or 3 times a week. My ex-partner would say she wanted to get back together, and would I take her out? I'd take her out for a meal, and then she'd have me arrested afterwards. And then what finally topped that off then was getting arrested at my mum's funeral just after I put my mum in the grave. And that was my trigger point, I suppose, for uh, trying to end my life. Twice that I tried it. Once was obviously quite like the normal thing that a lot of people do, but then one was a lot more serious. But I don't really want to go into that because it's quite graphic, so it's not the place to talk about that. And then after that, I had a choice really of going in the police cell or going in a mental home. So I asked them to put me in the mental home because I thought I'd get the help that I needed. But I went in the mental home, and all they done there was just kept forcing me to take medication, and it was forced medication. You had to stand there and prove you actually swallowed it every time. So I said to them, I kept asking for help, that I needed someone to talk to, and they kept saying, "Oh, we'll be with you, be with you." I took in hundreds of DVDs for them to watch, but the staff ended up taking them home. But it just wasn't interested in helping me. And I said to the psychiatrist, I need to get out of here. And I had a meeting with him, and he said, "Well, you're normal." I said, "Well, how can I be normal, diagnosed with bipolar?" And he said, "Well, you're normal." And so he signed me out. The first thing then I done was stop taking my medication. I never recommend that for everyone because some people need it for the rest of their lives. But for me, I didn't. I felt I was walking around like a zombie all the time with the medication, and I didn't feel like it was actually helping me. It was just calming me down, but not solving the issue. So I got out of the mental home and I booked a flight to Cuba, left all my medication at home, and went and spent 2 weeks on the beach in Cuba, partying and enjoying life. And then when I came back from that, I thought, well, I wasn't meant to die for some reason. So what do I do now? So I thought, okay, I was going to, I got back into work, and one of the women I met who worked at this estate agent said, "Why don't I come jive dancing?" So I took up modern jive, and then I started doing that literally every night of the week and weekends. And I've done so much of it. I actually lost so much weight. I looked ill because I was doing so much of it, but I was loving it. And then I took up salsa, and it was just a hobby, something to get your mind focused on something positive. And that's what I say to people now. It's like having a hobby stops your mind overthinking. And I always say that at events now. But so I started doing that, and then I got tax rebate. And then I thought, what do I do with the money? I was already, because I was back into work. I was already going to Mauritius a couple of times a year, sometimes 3 times a year, and things like that. So life was actually quite good. I was remarried again then, and I've now been remarried again for 9 years. 9 wonderful years. So it's good. And so I started, I saw a Bentley on eBay, and I thought, why not? I'm going to buy a Bentley. I'm one of 11 kids, so didn't grow up very rich or anything like that. I wouldn't say we were poor, but we couldn't afford obviously loads of stuff because we just couldn't afford it with 11 kids. And so then I thought, okay, I saw a Bentley on eBay, and I phoned up the guy and I said, look, if you can deliver it tomorrow, I'll have it. So he delivered it, and it's only £23,000, but say the tax man paid for it anyway, so it didn't really matter. So then I thought, okay, let's customize it. So I customized it all white with a gold stripe around the side of it, and then put all living the dream on it and like little private number plate on it, just to get attention. And started doing car shows, and I wrote my story. And then what my story says, well, what you don't see from here, apart from a flash car, is how I got here today. And it tells my story about how I turned my life around, gave away everything I owned, tried to end my life, and how much it's good to talk to people, find anyone, a stranger, and things like that to talk. But then after that, I thought, I want to do more for guys in construction. I still work as a project manager in construction. So I want to do more for that. The Bentley car gets loads of attention, and say it gets people open up, and loads of people open up and cry their eyes out, big, whether they're big guys or whatever they are, whether they're built like Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, they still cry because they open up and read my story. But then I started Construction Buddies, and the aim of Construction Buddies was to try to help people in the construction industry to end the stigma about it's weak to speak and things like that. Because I know that when I'm on a construction site, so many guys constantly open up every day and talk to me about their issues once they know what I've been through. And for me, I find it helps because I've been through it, and they realise I've been through it and come out the other side. So that's why now I try to change things in the industry, not necessarily make massive changes, but trying to improve the well-being that we get for workers. Show that the companies that by having better well-being, the staff stay longer, but also stop ticking boxes and cutting corners on safety. On LinkedIn alone, I've commented so many people on there where they put posts on there showing what a wonderful job they're doing. And I say to the guys, there's a high risk. The photographs you show that they could fall off the edge of the scaffold. But you say you're looking after their well-being, but you're not. But there's so much of that every day. I see photographs. I even commented to one again today. But we need to start looking after the guys. I said to one guy the other week, I said, why do you constantly work unsafe? He said, Mike, I've got no option. It's either that or I've got no work. But it shouldn't be to that stage. We should be doing everything we can to protect the guys. I know it's loads of the directors and company CEOs I speak to says, well, it all comes down to money. But when you get prosecuted, that's when you think, well, I should have actually not done that. And I've already had one guy die on my site in Chemshot about a couple of years ago now, nearly 3 years ago, and it was all on TV and everything else. But that's because he didn't come and sign in. If he had signed in, then obviously we could have probably done a proper induction with him and tell him that the live cables he was touching was actually live, rather than his mate telling him they were dead cables. And I couldn't save the guy. But it's horrible when you think people out in the industry are still taking risk on their own lives. But we need to do more. But I say we're not. But if I can sort of help change in the industry, even like the things I'm starting to want to do now is because I walked off a construction site recently because I wasn't happy with the safety that was done on that site. I'm now actually out of work. But I'm looking at starting my own stuff, doing site-specific inductions. By doing the site-specific inductions, it actually saves the managers loads of times a day doing inductions, and people can just come there and watch a video and actually save the company loads of time and money, and also makes the manager's life easier. But also, sorry, it's better well-being. That's what I want to try to get into this construction industry. One of my sites, I got a gold award for it. But actually I had monthly barbecues where my wife would do salads and stuff like that for the guys at work. I'd do the monthly barbecue, supply all the food, bicycles for them to local shops, basketball because a lot of them played for Reading basketball team. Relaxation room I had there was surround sound system. Everything was all supplied by me. I spent quite a few £1,000s of my own money there because the guys, it was all about well-being. But I found by looking after the guys' well-being, we end up months ahead of program. And so it proves by doing what I've done there, you can actually, and I didn't have to chase subcontractors who actually work on my site. They actually love working there. I actually got the subcontractors phone me up and said, Mike, do you want any more guys?
Yeah.
Because everyone loved working. I even had one wall tiler email me and say, Michael, I've just been told I'm coming back to your site. He said it's like fireworks going off. I'm so excited about coming back to your site.
That's
But
incredible.
that's what it's like. The industry is like that. If we look after the guys out on site and stop cutting corners and show they're actually looked after, but also mentoring, we need to sort of like, there's so many people with this CSCS stuff changing next year, that everyone has to have an MVQ now next year. Then we're going to lose a lot of workers, older workers, because they're not academic enough or whatever to actually qualify to do the tests. But with deaths in construction going up by 55% this year, and 100 companies going bust every week in construction, we need to do more.
Yeah.
And I feel if we actually can all work together, which we're not at the moment, it's all sort of like one person like me and loads of other people like me out there doing our own little thing, but we're not actually achieving what we want to achieve in the industry. So I'd like to see more, more teaming up with people.
Is it from the way you've explained it and described it? Of course, it's simplified a little bit because there's a lot of complex. It sounds like it's just it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's why would you not invest in this sort of approach to sites and construction and it's the big frustration, isn't it? I know you want to become the voice of construction, in this, especially in the topic of well-being and mental health in particular. What I really found fascinating, Mike, and I hope you're okay to sort of just go back over a little bit, but is the sort of the start of your journey back in 2009 and the sort of the catalyst of things that were going wrong around you. There was a lot of stuff going on, right? And thankfully you're still here today to tell this story and to help and support others in those challenging years for you. Who helped you through that? Who was the person, or was there anybody that really sort of you remember was the help that you needed? So obviously we're talking about construction buddies, just linking
No,
it in.
no, there was no one, no one at all. The only thing that helped me was taking up a hobby.
Yep.
That's the only thing that got me through, because there was no one. I kept asking sort of to talk to people, but the only thing that got me through was talking to strangers at work.
Yep. Yep.
I talked to them about, because I got no shame in what I do, because I got bipolar. I have my bad days and good days like a lot of people do, but I try to live with it as it is, and so I know the issues or know the symptoms or whatever that I've got. So but yeah, there was no one to talk to. But what helps me now is talking to everyone at car events and things like that I go to, because even though they read my story and I say to them, obviously, like part of what I went through and everything else, then I listen to their issues, and that's what helps me every week get through what I do. And also now, every time I open my garage door, I see the Bentley,
Of
and
course.
that gives me a boost. Thinking after I gave everything away, money, everything, furniture, everything I owned, literally, the sports cars, the flash watches, everything like that. I gave everything away because I wasn't planning on being alive. I didn't want to be alive, and I was disappointed when I survived, because at the time I didn't want to.
Mm.
Um,
Well, no, and it's a fascinating insight and perspective, and the reason I asked that question was because obviously what you're trying to achieve now and what you're actually achieving, not even trying, you are achieving, is connecting people who aren't having the support around them or don't know who to talk to and where to turn to. And it's one of the reasons why I love this media is having conversations with normal everyday people about their experiences, so that we can feel more connected together.
yeah, I find that the biggest thing I'm getting at the moment from people I'm talking to at every event, literally every single event, they all come up with the same thing and says, um, we all talk about our issues to counsellors or whatever, to these special people, but after 5 sessions they get dumped.
Yeah.
And they say, but we've got no one after that. They said, apart from we have to pay loads of money to
Yeah.
counsellors, but there's no one out there actually doing like I say, the main big companies that actually help you with the mental health, and they're the biggest ones in the UK. But I say they get dumped after 5 sessions, and you think, does it down to money? Is it sort of like, are they allocated a certain amount of money per person? Then after that runs out, they get dumped. I know in the mental home, I was speaking to the one of the guys that worked there recently, and he told me they get allocated money. And then once that runs out, they've been told they've got to get people out back out on the streets, which which is all wrong because a lot of times you're not cured after 5 sessions and things like that.
Oh, it takes a lot longer, doesn't it? It takes a lot
Yeah.
longer. And it's the funding that, fundamentally the funding is a big challenge. But I also think the number of people that can actually administer the counselling, the therapists and the counsellors, is also limited because there's, the demand for it's increased significantly, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it links back to something that I'm really passionate about, outside of this, and I know you're passionate, which is that thing about taking it to the basic level, the importance of us individually learning more about ourselves. You've been on a journey, I've been on a journey, and we've learned a lot about ourselves through that, good stuff, bad stuff, and everything in between. And now we're trying to use that to help and support other people, right?
yeah, yeah. Because I find it's all about listening to people's issues. And the amount of times over the weekend, like the 2 days, it's only the Sunday and the Monday, I was at the this car event. I'm at another one in 2 weeks' time. If anyone out there obviously wants to come down to Eastleigh, I'm at the Concord Club down there, showing my car off down there. But I say it's all about listening to people's issues, and that's the biggest thing. Is people's listening, and that's what obviously most people want out there, someone to listen to, and the release on their faces. So many people cried their eyes out, and one woman the weekend, she was crying her eyes out so much she actually went away and brought her family back to actually read my story at this car event because it affected her so much, and she wanted a family and a husband and dad and the kids and all that sort of stuff to come back and read the story, and then they all started crying.
Oh, wow, that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
What impact that's had, and that's profound. That's so deep, isn't it? But
yeah.
that's that human connection and being able to be open and honest about who we really are, which a lot of people do really struggle with. Especially, think about the construction industry. For anybody that's listening, if you understand the construction industry, it's a hard industry, right?
Can be, yeah. It can be really hard, yeah.
And seasonally, that can have a major impact as well, right?
Well, yeah, especially towards winter time and everything. You get up and it's freezing cold, and you're going out there and working. You're getting soaking through, and you think, and all the pressure you're under at the moment as well, and the long hours, getting up in the dark and going home in the dark. It's not a nice feeling at all.
And you already explained sort of around some of those numbers, the increase in deaths in construction, the mental health challenges. For anybody that's listening, you can go out there, you can find these statistics. They're all publicly announced, and it's quite a harsh sort of reality right now. There's a lot of challenges there, right?
Yeah, because also you've got like I think it was about just over a couple of weeks ago now, a company went bust owing 300, I think it's 352 million, something like that. And obviously that's probably you'll find obviously the directors are okay because a lot of times they know about they're going bust and everything. They've made sure they're okay. We're not saying they are, but um, obviously that affects the suppliers. So a lot of suppliers will go bust now because of that. That means obviously the workers and the subcontractors could lose their houses now because obviously a lot of times with that sort of money, one company may do 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 sites. So it means they got a lot of investment into those companies. So they're all going to suffer with their mental health now, and that's never ending. Every week, with say 100 companies going bust, there's so many people out there suffering now. We want to see what way we can do to help them by getting better well-being on site. You retain staff retention. You actually you just you imagine how much you're paying agencies. £8, 8,000, £10,000 now I think they're charging per man like me. And obviously get through quite a few with big companies. It's a lot of money you're throwing away because you're not looking after well-being. But looking after well-being, I think the statistic, I'm not sure on the statistic. I think it's like for every pound you invest, you get £5 back, something like that in productivity or whatever. So it shows obviously like looking after the staff is better for you.
Yeah, I guess the argument for some of the construction side is they're not permanent members of staff; they're just subcontractors. So I guess that's a challenge, isn't it, for organizations?
Yeah, but I suppose if they got a lot of like managers and assistant site managers, um, forklift drivers they may have for a long time that's actually employed by them because obviously it's cheaper to employ them rather than the other way around. Then obviously then the staff turnover. But I speak to so many companies as well about the bullying in construction.
Yeah.
Um, and why do we need to do it? It's like well you're telling the guys you've got to get the job done and everything like that, and there's a risk of being fired if you don't get it done. But we shouldn't be doing that now. This like it's 1923, not 1974, before the Health and Safety Act come into place. We should be looking after the guys and care about them, show we care, help them get better education and things like that. That's the sort of thing that the voice of construction, me, wants to help change is to get better mentoring and get the younger kids into more people into the construction industry. And I think we desperately need that.
It appears that way, doesn't it? There's constructions going up everywhere, and it's just that where do you find the resources for the future? It's a challenge, right?
Well, yeah, looking at the again, I can't remember the statistics, but I think it's so many million people we need in the industry by 2030, and which we haven't got at the moment.
Yeah.
So something drastically needs to change.
Does, doesn't it? And it's a scary reality, and I think it's not uncommon in other industries as well, where there's that lack of resources, personnel, people, boots on the ground being able to do jobs, and it's a scary thing. So let's just sort of look forward to the future a little bit, Mike, if we can. So obviously you've got the Bentley, which is amazing, and the construction buddies piece.
Yeah.
Sort of what else do you want to do with that? So how big can you make that?
Well, I'd like to make it really big, obviously, but I need companies to back what I'm trying to do. And without that, I say at the moment, I've been funding it. 55% of my wages each month has been going on this of my own money each month, where I could actually be living the nice lifestyle. But even though I've got a Bentley, the Bentley is so many faults on it and everything else. But I want to say I need to get companies to back what I'm doing, and obviously like touring the UK. I've got loads of other events coming up, more TV stuff coming up, and things like that. But it's companies I need to link up with, so actually go in there and do talks, showing that obviously that by looking after their well-being and what we can gain, site-specific inductions to actually save their managers time, because you imagine like a £20 million job, how long the manager spends each day doing site inductions. It's like hours, literally hours and hours. But if they had a site specific induction for that site, he hasn't got to spend any time because they can watch the site specific induction for that site. It means they can sit and watch it and then just sign the register, sign in, or they can actually have an induction before they even come to site. It could be sent to the subcontractor's office. So there's so many things that I want to do. But also say it's all about talks on what we can do to help people, because obviously like my websites, I've got the Construction Buddies and Bentley Mental Health websites. I've got some great first aid training companies on there. There's one from Basingstoke I think you've heard of, which is yours, which is on there.
Oh, very kind. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and obviously I've got some other health and safety training people on there if you're interested in lifting and things like that, manual handling, but also counsellors. I don't get anything out of them. It's purely because I just want to help other people progress. But for myself, I'd say it's all about getting companies to try to support what I'm trying to do, which is hard at the moment because it's a hard decision to make which way to go. But I am passionate about saving lives in construction. That's my passion.
And I applaud that, and I think that's just you've done a wonderful job with your own resources, and that's something that a lot of people would struggle with, of course. So you putting so much of yourself and your own financial resources into it as well it's a massive commitment, but it shows how passionate you are about this subject, and that's what I've found it really fascinating listening to you, Mike, talking about your journey, your experience, and thinking about how bad it really got for you and where you are now in comparison to that by you're doing something very noble by supporting and helping and trying to improve things. And I want to wish you all the best with that. We're sort of coming towards the end point. I'll get you to sort of say a few final words in a moment, but just want to commend everything that you've done, because I think you've just, it's brilliant. And thank you for putting our company on your website as well. I really appreciate that as well. And you know what, we can all do it together. That's the key, isn't it? It's about coming together versus trying to do it as single voices. So kudos to you, buddy. Final thoughts from you. I always say, like, any favorite phrase or saying, if you've got one, let us know what it is. What do you live your life by? But yeah, final thoughts, Mike.
Well, I think the voice of construction, I want the voice of construction to be well known out there, as well as Construction Buddy. But it's about the voice of construction, about someone that talks for the workers and want to make positive changes within positive improvements within the construction, not change the construction, but positive improvements.
Yeah. Brilliant. And on that journey of, improving well-being across that sector, I just want to wish you all the best with that, because it's not going to be an easy task, right? As you know. But even if it's just one site at a time, it's better than nothing, isn't it? So it's amazing. Brilliant stuff. For anybody that's listening, if you want to get in touch with Mike, or if you want to see more details about the work that he's doing with the Bentley or with Construction Buddies, I will drop the links to the websites into this post as well. So please feel free to go and check out Mike's work. Go and track him down at a car event at some point soon. You'll know he's there, because there's a white Bentley somewhere, so it will be standing out, no doubt, all shiny. But yeah, Mike, thank you so much for participating in this with me. Like I say, I was looking forward to this anyway, but it's been fantastic. So thank you, and I want to wish you all the best for the future. Look after yourself and stay well.
Thank you.
All right.